Wow, what a good looking guy. Oh, how's it? Thanks guys for joining us for another Stuff You Take video. If you haven't seen this video, I recommend you go and watch it before you carry on with any of these videos, because it's actually kind of like a series. You know, you start with episode 1 and then you carry on. Anyways, so we are doing a gaming setup guide exploration to see what will give you the best gaming experience. Will it be a gaming server like we tested last week? Will it be a normal ATX machine? A normal gaming run-of-the-mill machine that you can actually just buy off the shelf, or you can get these parts quite well, basically from anywhere where they sell PC components. So, what will be the best between these two? Will it be the server, or will it be the ATX straightforward gaming PC? Now, for this video, we had to be a little bit creative. I didn't want to go again with massive core count, massive thread count, or even massive memory count. I decided to go for something that's a little bit more obtainable in a normal ATX form factor. So we ended up with a Pentium CPU. This is the Pentium G4560. It's a 2-core, 4-thread CPU running at a whopping 3.5 gigahertz, which is actually quite good. But my question would be is how will it perform in gaming, especially games that use multiple cores, multiple threads? Then again, we went with RAM that was a little bit more obtainable at 16 gig, which is really the sweet spot for gaming these days. And graphics card, because we've saved a little bit of money on the CPU and on the memory, I've decided to go for a GTX 1070 Ti. I don't know what's going on with the second-hand market, but GPUs are seriously expensive and everything is being blamed on the COVID pandemic. So we are going to test this out. For motherboard, I decided to go for the BioStar TB250. This is an RMA board, so I got it for really cheap, and just a 128 gig SSD hard drive to pop in there. For the sake of being quiet, I've decided to not actually connect the fans that are super dusty. This is an old Cooler Master case. I do like the build quality of this case. It's cheap, but you can still build quite a significant machine in here, which is fantastic. The power supply, we've got the EVGA G550 G2 gold rated power supply, complete overkill, I would say, for this system. And yeah, straightforward PC, nothing too special about it, but let's see how it does in gaming. Now, obviously our server was actually benched with a GTX 1060 6 gig. So to even out the playing field, I decided to run the benchmarks in the server again, but with a 1070 Ti, to make sure that we are getting a apple-to-apple comparison when we actually benchmark this system. So we are about to run the benchmark here, and it's starting to load up. And I must say, the CPU is starting to ramp up already. It's quite noisy. I don't know how this is going to go. Let's hope for the best, I suppose. Okay, so straight off the bat, we are getting about 60, 70 frames now. Wow, that's actually really not bad. Well, it's cool to see here CPU usage at 100%. Obviously, the CPU is 2 cores, 4 threads, so we can see that in the benchmark, running at 3.5 gigahertz basically constantly. And other than the fans being slightly noisy, this is actually running quite well. I did not expect the CPU to actually keep up with a 1070 Ti, which in fairness, I don't think it is actually keeping up, but it's running. And then we have 32 FPS dip. Not too happy about that. 30 FPS for me is just a no-go. Like anything under 45, actually 50, is where you really start noticing some stuttering. So not great results here at the moment. So running at over 60 at the moment, which is fantastic. It's almost like it's just those dips that it's struggling to keep up with a new scene or something that's a bit more detailed. It's almost like the graphics card is waiting for the CPU to catch up. We're running at 7.6 gig memory on the RAM. So just so that you know why I'm saying that 16 gig is better. Oh, massive stuttering. I don't know if you see or saw that, but that's massive stuttering right there. The frames are keeping high, but it's actually skipping frames, which feels like a lag, but the frames are still high. So it's actually skipping 2 or 3 frames, which is not great. I'm starting to wonder if this will even complete the benchmark, because we're just seeing a blank screen here at the moment. It must be loading or something. Yeah, not great. I wonder if we should just not go straight into the 3D Mark standard edition benchmark. I think let's do that, because I don't think this machine is very happy with the current setup. So it's running. That's good, I suppose, right? But we are only getting 36 frames at the moment, which is quite low. Oh, 2519. It's really not doing well. Not coping well at all. Funny enough, the CPU though is at 90, not pegged at 100% all the time. Wow, that fan is annoying. It's really annoying. Anyways, we are seeing it clocked down to 2 gigahertz, back up to 3.5, 80%, 70%. Very odd. But I do think that the CPU is just not coping. So there we have it, guys. We've got our PC benchmarked against our server, and I'm quite impressed with the performance. It's not great, but for the price of these things, it is quite affordable, which makes it very good. So if you're on a tight budget, I recommend getting a Pentium 2-core 4-thread CPU like this one. They were quite expensive when they launched though, so try not to pay those prices, because you can get a 9100F for 1,200 Rand, which is about $60 these days. So if you can get it for, let's say, half of that, you would be okay with this. Maybe try and include a motherboard for that price as well, and then get cheap RAM, because it's a Pentium. You're not really gonna need any fast gaming RGB memory for the build like this. Any cheap case will do. Any cheap power supply of 450, 550 watt minimum. See that the power supply has at least a 6-pin or an 8-pin PCIe dedicated connector, so that you don't have to buy those dodgy Molex or SATA to 6-pin to 8-pin connector converters. Not recommended at all. But this PC is fully capable of gaming. 1080p, I don't think you'll be able to game much higher than that. This is a 144 Hz monitor, but we didn't even try to go down that road, because I don't think the CPU is going to cope. So there's no point in even trying. So yeah, thanks guys. I really appreciate it that you watched this. Subscribe, because next time we're jumping a little bit ahead here, because I've got limited access to an Alienware Area 51 laptop. There's only a few of these in the country, and I'm super excited to get this tested. This thing is an absolute monster, and I'm keen to get it tested, so I'm skipping ahead a little bit. The next one was supposed to be an ITX build, which we will get to, a nice white and black ITX case. We'll get to that eventually, but for now, I want to focus on this laptop because I'm super excited. And remember, we're trying to see what is the best gaming experience, not the best performance. What is the best experience that a system will offer, from a server all the way down to a phone? So stay tuned, subscribed if you haven't yet. You don't want to miss any of these future videos. Thanks guys, cheers.
Wow!
Oh no! It's always fun to wait for something to load.